Motoring Forum tackled part 1 of the discussions on the rise of mini gas stations from the perspective of the Department of Energy, heard at the 5th Society of Philippine Motoring Journalists Forum. In this edition, Motoring Forum continues with part 2 of the discussions, this time focusing on the perspective of the private oil sector.
During the recent 5th Society of Philippine Motoring Journalists or SPMJ Forum, the rise of the mini gas stations in far-flung barangays and lately in more urbanized areas was discussed. In part 1 of this Motoring Forum series on the SPMJ Forum, resource speakers from the Department of Energy or DOE discussed how the department decided to allow the establishment of mini gas stations or Technology Solution Retail Outlets or TSROs as a way to stop the practice of backyard retailing fuel by the Coke bottle, the so-called bote-bote. The DOE detailed some of the guidelines for safety and the process for getting authorization to operate TSROs. In part 2, resource person Rafi Kapinpin, Executive Director of the Philippine Institute of Petroleum or PIP, discussed the oil industry's concerns about TSROs. The PIP was established as a non-profit organization by oil industry stakeholders in 1996, essentially to act as a voice for its members, with the industry being deregulated. Today, the PIP's members include Chevron, Isla LPG, Petron, PTT, Shell, and Total Energies. Kapinpin shared that the PIP supports the initiative to counter the bote-bote retailing of fuels because this is unsafe and product quality is not assured. The PIP also understands TSROs provide business opportunities and employment to small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. Kapinpin, however, said the PIP believes TSROs should be supervised and monitored more closely to ensure full compliance with DOE's retailing rules, and more importantly, other government regulations to ensure safety and a level playing field. In this presentation at the SPMJ Forum, Kapinpin showed photos lifted mostly from social media that showed many TSROs that were obviously not complying with one or more of the guidelines. The PIP was particularly concerned about TSROs being allowed to store up to 2,000 liters of fuel above ground, which regular gasoline stations aren't allowed to do for safety reasons. Kapinpin's briefing also touched on how 2 suppliers of fuel vending machines were encouraging people to establish TSROs, advertised mostly on social media, which to the oil industry's eyes wasn't too concerned about safety or faithful compliance with DOE guidelines. Like the suggestion that all one needs to do is fill up columns on a form, or encouraging TSROs to use reconditioned oil drums to store fuel. PIP was also concerned that the 2 fuel vending machine suppliers seeming to target would-be TSRO operators in crowded urban areas where presumably no bote-bote sellers exist or where regular gasoline stations are prevalent. Aside from the safety aspect, which Kapinpin emphasized by showing social media posts of fires involving TSROs, the PIP was particularly concerned about a level playing field. Kapinpin showed a comparison requirements for regular stations and for TSROs, which to PIP members gave the latter unfair advantage. The PIP is calling for a level playing field, particularly in the following areas, which Kapinpin said TSROs seem not required to provide or comply with: BAR registration and issuance of receipts, field marking certificate, equally stringent compliance to COC requirements, Bureau of Fire Protection Fire Safety Certificate, and compliance with DOE repertorial requirements. In ending PIP's brief for SPMJ members, Kapinpin acknowledged that the DOE is in process of addressing some of its concerns, including clarifying TSROs are not exempted from compliance with technical and other documentary requirements from DOE and LGUs, moving to strictly implement provisions of Rule 4, especially those for securing and applying for the mandatory certificate of compliance, and ensuring TSROs are allowed only where bote-bote retailing is present, as certified by LGUs concerned. The PIP is particularly reassured that the DOE is in the process of revising the addendum to Rule 4 to provide utmost safety to the consumers and other stakeholders.
There is a place for mini gas stations, especially in far-flung areas not served by regular gas stations. But there may be a need to revisit DOE guidelines for allowing their operation for greater safety as well as ensuring a level playing field for major and minor players. That's our Motoring Forum this week, courtesy of Suzuki Philippines.